The Boston Celtics have just made a decision that could be remembered years from now as one of those subtle moves that quietly reshaped the team's future. In the middle of one of the most strategically charged offseasons in franchise history, Brad Stevens has chosen a path that breaks away from the league's predictable patterns. This is not about chasing headlines with blockbuster trades or splashing millions in long-term deals. This is about planting a seed that could grow into something far more significant than anyone is ready to admit. And that seed comes in the form of Max Shulga, a sharpshooting guard whose arrival in Boston feels less like a routine signing and more like the opening chapter of a carefully constructed plan. At first glance, Shulga's contract might seem like a small detail: 1 year on a two-way deal, a structure that runs against the grain of recent trends where second-round picks often lock into multi-year commitments. But this is where the intrigue begins. By keeping it to a single season, Boston is sending a message that 2025 and 2026 are not years to be tied down by rigid contracts. They want the board clear, the flexibility alive, and the ability to pivot instantly if the right opportunity appears. This is the type of forward thinking that allows a contender to stay agile while others get stuck in their own financial decisions. Shulga's basketball journey adds another layer of curiosity. Drafted 57th overall by the Orlando Magic and immediately flipped to Boston on draft night, he is no stranger to adapting quickly. His college years began at Utah State before a transfer to Virginia Commonwealth University, where his game evolved into a combination of steady shooting, strong rebounding for his position, and playmaking instincts that many overlook. At 1 meter and 95 centimeters, he closed his senior year with an average of 15 points, nearly 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and close to 2 steals per game, while hitting almost 39% from beyond the arc. Those are not empty numbers. They are a blueprint for a guard who can space the floor, survive the physicality of the league, and make intelligent decisions under pressure. Critics might point to his summer league shooting percentage, which fell to 24.1% from the field, but those who watched closely saw something beyond the stat sheet. They saw a player commanding the offense with poise, defending with a sense of urgency, and making reads that belied his rookie status. They saw a player unafraid of the NBA pace, willing to put himself in positions to learn, fail, and immediately adjust. In a league obsessed with instant production, Boston appears to be betting on a rarer commodity: the ability to grow into a role and become more valuable over time. The departure of J.D. Wiesen quietly opens a lane for Shulga to take. On a heavier ball-handling load in the G League system, his stated admiration for Donte DiVincenzo is more than just a casual comparison. DiVincenzo built a reputation as the ultimate connector, someone who hits open threes, plays suffocating defense, disrupts passing lanes, and steps into secondary playmaking when needed. If Shulga can mirror even a portion of that skill set, Boston could find themselves with a rotational piece who does not demand the ball to impact the game. There is also the timing to consider. This is an offseason where Boston's depth will be tested from the very first month. The team has one standard roster spot and one two-way slot still available, and every choice from here on is part of a bigger picture. By giving Shulga this platform, the Celtics are not committing blindly. They are testing, measuring, and preparing to make informed decisions when the stakes rise. If he thrives, they can move quickly to secure him on a longer-term deal. If he struggles, they have the freedom to reconfigure without financial strain before the pivotal summer of 2026, a summer that will see the return of Jason Tatum at full force and possibly the unveiling of another championship-level roster configuration. In the end, this move is not about filling a stat line in October. It is about planting a possibility in August that could blossom into a reliable contributor by the time the season is on the line. It is about staying unpredictable in a league that rewards those who think 2 steps ahead. And it is about sending a quiet but unmistakable message to the rest of the NBA. Boston is not just building for today, they are maneuvering for the moment when every piece aligns. The real question is not whether Max Shulga can make an impact now, but whether the Celtics have just positioned themselves to unlock yet another unexpected advantage when it matters most. Boston finds itself at a fascinating crossroads, a moment where a single roster decision could tip the balance between a championship run and a season of unanswered questions. The Celtics have 14 of their 15 regular season roster spots filled and one more slot in a two-way deal ready to be claimed. On paper, that might sound like routine front office housekeeping. But in reality, it is the kind of quiet inflection point that has historically set the stage for dramatic late-season storylines. This is the part of the offseason when decisions are made far from the cameras, yet end up defining what fans see in June. The recent release of Miles Norris has opened a lane for Boston to act. The expectation is that Amari Williams, one of this year's second-round picks, will claim the final two-way contract. His size, defensive timing, and potential as a switchable big make him an obvious candidate. But what lies beyond the predictable move is where the intrigue truly begins. Boston's front office has been deliberately methodical this summer, stacking depth without compromising future flexibility and leaving just enough room to pounce if a unique opportunity surfaces. Under league rules, teams can carry up to 21 players in the offseason, and Boston sits at 19 before officially signing Williams. That group includes 3 players on Exhibit 10 contracts: Yalen Bridges, Aaron Scott, and Hayden Gray, all of whom impressed in the Summer League. Bridges and Scott appear headed for the G League affiliate, while Gray has already committed. Each of them remains a developmental chip the team can monitor closely without sacrificing valuable roster spots. The depth chart is solid across the board. Ball handlers like Derek White, Anthony Simons, and Peyton Pritchard offer versatility. The wings are stacked with Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, Baylor Shearman, Hugo Gonzalez, Josh Minot, Jordan Walsh, and, once recovered from his Achilles injury, Jason Tatum. The front court features Neemias Queta, Luka Garza, Chris Boucher, and Xavier Tillman Sr., a group that can cover multiple styles of play. 2 of the 3 two-way slots are occupied by Max Shulga and R.J. Lewis Jr., leaving the final one for Williams. From a structural standpoint, it all looks complete, and yet one empty chair remains. The question is how Brad Stevens and his team will approach the 15th roster spot. There have been whispers at various points this summer linking Boston to former All-Star Ben Simmons. While that connection may have cooled after the acquisition of Boucher, it is difficult to ignore the possibility that Simmons could still fit into Boston's vision if circumstances align. His defensive versatility, size, and passing would add a layer of unpredictability to the roster, and in a locker room that thrives on accountability, he might find the stability he has been missing. Another name in the conversation is Charles Bassey, a young big man with a reputation for rim protection and relentless rebounding. While overseas clubs have shown interest, Bassey is reportedly eager for another NBA chance. His standout performance with Boston's Summer League squad was not lost on the coaching staff, and the door remains open for him to join training camp. In the fall, signing a player like Bassey might seem like a minor move now, but it is exactly these types of low-cost, high-upside additions that can become invaluable when injuries and matchups begin to dictate playoff rotations. However, there is also the possibility that Boston does nothing for now. According to MassLive's Brian Robb, the team may keep the final roster spot vacant in order to maximize tax savings, preserving flexibility to strike later in the season when the buyout market begins to heat up. This would be a calculated gamble, one that prioritizes timing over immediate depth. But history has shown that the Celtics are comfortable playing the long game when the payoff is right. If Boston does decide to fill the spot sooner, it could come at the cost of moving an existing player. Someone like Jordan Walsh, a young wing with untapped potential, might draw interest from teams looking to add athleticism and upside. In a scenario where Boston seeks a specific skill set, perhaps more front-court rim protection or a unique playmaking profile, the front office might be willing to part with a young piece or even attach a future draft asset, as they did in the Georges Niang deal with Utah. To create the right roster balance, what makes this moment so captivating is that it exists in the narrow space between stability and opportunity. The Celtics are already contenders, built on a core that knows how to win deep into the postseason. In the NBA, championships are often decided by the players who fill the margins, those who step into a playoff series and change the dynamic in ways no scout could have predicted. Whether Boston fills that 15th spot now, waits for a mid-season opportunity, or uses it as leverage in a bigger trade, choice will ripple through the months ahead. For fans, the suspense lies in knowing that the move they make, or the one they don't, could be the spark that carries this roster from being a favorite to being a champion. Something unusual is happening in Boston, and the rest of the league cannot quite figure it out. Brad Stevens is quietly engineering a sequence of moves that look small on paper, but could have massive ripple effects by the time the season reaches its most decisive moments. The latest chapter began with the Chris Boucher signing, a move that only became official after the front office made space by sending Georges Niang to Utah in exchange for R.J. Lewis and eventually waiving Miles Norris. The transaction might seem routine, yet the timing, the roster implications, and the underlying strategy all suggest this is only the surface of a deeper plan. Boston now holds 3 two-way contracts, with Max Shulga and RJ Lewis already locked in, and 1 slot left that appears destined for second-round pick Amari Williams. Williams is not a household name yet, but his skill set, high-level rim protection, elite rebounding, and underrated passing from the top of the key fits the Celtics system with precision. He might not be in the rotation this year, but the organization seems to believe that his profile could mature into exactly the type of role player championship teams depend on in critical stretches. The more immediate focus, however, is Chris Boucher. Entering his age 32 season, he brings experience, length, and an ability to stretch the floor, something Boston's frontcourt has been quietly lacking since the reshaping of the roster began earlier this offseason. While he is not known as a lockdown defender, his combination of offensive versatility and relentless rebounding could force Joe Mazzulla to keep him on the floor in key moments. And the truth is, the Celtics do not have many frontcourt players right now with a proven track record in the NBA. Boucher could instantly become one of the most dependable options at either the 4 or the small ball 5. An anonymous Eastern Conference executive recently admitted that the Celtics roster is out of whack, and that no one can tell exactly where they are going. That uncertainty may actually be Stevens' greatest weapon. If rival GMs cannot read Boston's intentions, it makes every upcoming negotiation unpredictable. Boucher's signing gives the team a reliable veteran in a rotation that includes players like Neemias Queta, Luka Garza, and Xavier Tillman, each of whom comes with questions about durability, role, or ceiling. Right now, Boucher might be the most NBA-arity big man on the roster, and that says a lot about how strategically Stevens is managing this transition period. But the more fascinating subplot lies with Anthony Simons. Acquired in the deal that sent Drew Holiday away, Simons has yet to even hold an introductory press conference in Boston. Multiple reports, including one from Jake Fisher, indicate that the Celtics are actively welcoming trade conversations involving him all the way. Until the deadline on February 5th at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, this is not the posture of a team desperately trying to move a player, but rather of a front office in full control, letting the market come to them while preserving maximum leverage. Simons is on an expiring contract, and moving him could instantly drop Boston below the luxury tax threshold, saving tens of millions and avoiding the punishing repeater penalties that can cripple future roster flexibility. Cap expert Yossi Goslan has already calculated that Boston has shaved roughly $286 million in roster expenses since the start of the offseason. Trading Simons could free another $40 million and give the Celtics the ability to operate without the long-term restrictions that come with staying above the tax year after year. The financial picture is not just about saving money. It is about shaping a roster that can contend again when the timing is right. There is a growing sense that the Celtics might treat this as a strategic reset, positioning themselves for a surge when Jason Tatum returns at full strength for the 2026 to 2027 season. That could mean collecting assets, keeping the books clean, and giving young players space to grow without the pressure of immediate contention. The mystery is that Stevens is not making it obvious whether this is a step back or a step forward. Each move could be read either as preparation for a quiet year or as the setup for a mid-season blockbuster. If Simons stays past opening night, he could provide an offensive punch and spacing in the backcourt. If he goes, the Celtics could return a package that reshapes the team before the All-Star break. Stevens has shown in the past that he is willing to move decisively when the right opportunity appears, and the league has learned not to underestimate him. What makes this moment so compelling is that the Celtics are operating in a zone where no one outside the organization can predict the next call, and that is exactly where Stevens seems to want them. Right now, Boston's opponents are guessing. Fans are watching for clues in every transaction. Front office is controlling the pace, holding the strongest cards close to the vest. Whether the next headline is about a surprise trade, breakout from an unheralded draft pick, or a midseason surge sparked by new rotations, one thing is clear: Brad Stevens has built the kind of uncertainty that keeps the entire league off balance. And in the NBA, that is often the prelude to something unforgettable.